Today's video is going to feature the Blum pull-out shelf lock. So let's get this video rolling. And in this case, we're building the box with the Blum Tandem, like you see here. It's already installed with the soft close feature. Next, I'm going to assemble these wood components. And after that, I'll explain to you how you arrive at the correct size for this shelf for your application. There. The wood components are assembled, and now the next phase of this operation is to explain to you how I arrived at the dimensions for the shelf. The pull-out shelf itself is made up of just 4 components. Let me just show you that. The shelf board and the front piece. In addition to the front piece, on the bottom, there are 2 side strips here that are fabricated, and these help keep the runner in alignment. Let's talk about the dimensions of this shelf and its various components. So to start with, let's look at the thickness of the shelf. According to the specifications, this shelf can be a minimum of 5/8 of an inch thick here, and they show that you can go up to 1 inch. The front piece, which is this piece right here, this front piece has to be a minimum of 1/2 inch thick, and you can go up to 5/8 on the front piece. They don't make provisions to go beyond that for thickness. So that's the shelf and the front piece. How wide do you make the shelf? This way, how wide do you make the shelf? This has to be 22 millimeters narrower than the opening in your cabinet. 22 millimeters narrower, or 7/8 of an inch narrower than the opening of the cabinet. That's the width of it. So what about the length from here to here, including the front piece? The length of your shelf, including the front piece, will be whatever length slide you buy. For example, if it's 18 inches long, you subtract 1 inch and 1/8. And 1 inch and 1/8 equates to 28 millimeters. So if you're working in millimeters, and if that's the way you think, if you have 457 millimeters, then subtract 28. If you have 533 millimeters for length, subtract 28. That's how you determine the length of this, including the front piece from front to back. Now, what about these 2 pieces on the bottoms? The dimensions of these pieces, they have to be a 1/2 an inch high, 13 millimeters, and 3/8 of an inch wide, 10 millimeters. And that's how, and you make 2 of them like that, 1 for each side. And it's also going to be 20 millimeters shorter than this. You've got to have 20 millimeters right here. That's the minimum. So you have to cut the length of this to fit so that you have at least 20 millimeters right there. So those are the dimensions of this shelf that has to go right here on this cabinet. And now the next step is to put this thing together, put the components on the shelf to show you how it works. What I'm holding in my hand here is what Blum calls the synchronization rod, or the synchronization shaft. The rod synchronizes these 2 locking units. So how do you determine how long to cut this synchronization shaft or rod? It is 87 millimeters less than the opening in your cabinet, or 3 7/16 inches. They're both the same. And so I already did that. I cut it. So this is ready to go. These locking units are ready, and I have the latches already installed in here. So you'll see that they're in the cabinet. I have set them back on the 3rd hole. So that's all ready to go. So what we're going to do now is put the locking units on the shelf. You mount them to the bottom. The screw holes go into the bottom. One will go here, and one will go here. Actually, what I'm going to do to make it easier for me is I'm going to put the locking units on the shaft first. They kind of go in there hard. It's a little bit hard to shove them in. There. That's right where I want it. So I'm going to install these locking units with the synchronization shaft or synchronization rod with the 6 by 5/8 flathead screws. I already pre-drilled the holes with a Vicks bit. So now the locking units are attached to the shelf. The next step is to install the front locking devices that are compatible with the Blum drawer runner. So we're going to do that right now. I'm using a panhead screw because I'm screwing these locking devices directly to the floor of the cabinet. So now we have the locking units with the synchronization rod and the front locking devices attached to the shelf. So now this is what the shelf looks like. That's the back. And this is the front. This is the top. Now we're going to install our pull-out shelf. And as I said, our locking units are already installed into the cabinet. And so we should be able to install our pull-out shelf. Install our shelf. There, it's in the cabinet. And now we can pull our shelf forward, and it locked. Release lever, self-close. What I've done is I've raised the front piece up so that it's easier for me to get a hold of the drawer and pull it open. That's the Tandem pull-out shelf lock. Works real good. I like it a lot.